Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Make America Civil Again. Today we're going to be talking about the Mueller Report, but before we begin, like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that you can be notified that your favorite YouTube interviewer has posted a new video. So I am here with Robert. Robert, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Manny. Good to see you.
Good to see
Thanks
you
for
as
having
well.
me on.
Absolutely. Happy for you to come on here. And I hope you don't mind me saying this. We differ politically. I am conservative. He's
Pretty liberal, pretty left.
Okay.
Fairly left.
Fairly left.
Fairly left.
How far left?
I draw the line at where you try to dictate what science means. I'll draw the line at a certain extent.
Okay.
Socially speaking, I don't really care what you do to yourself and your body, but don't tell me certain things are natural or naturally occurring when they quite clearly aren't.
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
So, I have my limits. So a little bit about myself. I went to Boyd School of Law. I graduated about 4 years ago now. And I've been practicing as an attorney now for about 4 years.
Okay.
Naturally in that field, there's quite a bit of liberals. I mean, I know most of my professors were liberal leaning. A lot of them have written liberal texts and things like that. And even though I certainly identify with a lot of things they are, there is I see guys like Shapiro and Rogan who point this out. There's that level where it's just you guys are kind of going off the deep end here.
Yeah.
It's it's nice to think of that utopia that you're talking about, but we live here in reality. So let's try to be practical about the way things are.
Okay.
So I mean, I definitely have my criticism about it, but I'm definitely a left.
You did law school,
Mhm.
so you're currently practicing law.
Insurance defense.
Insurance defense. Okay.
Yeah. So basically, you get in a car accident and it's your fault. I'm the guy that your attorney or your insurance will hire.
Oh, okay.
So
Do you like doing that?
It's a job. Hey, it pays the bills. I can't complain.
Yeah.
I could be much worse off, but it's definitely a tough job. But,
Okay.
I appreciate the education that I've received. It gave me a perspective on things that I otherwise probably wouldn't be able to understand. And that's kind of why, when you asked me to come on, this was a topic of something that I felt I wouldn't mind talking about. The channel's Make America Civil Again. And I think that that's something that's been lost.
Yeah.
I think, our parents' generation had a real big problem where they just stopped talking to each other about difficult things.
Yeah.
Why have we not talked about race relations since the 60s? It's obscene.
Yeah.
It's just gotten worse.
Yeah.
So, I think that I like the idea of the show, and I'd like to bring a perspective and respectfully try to present it.
From your understanding, why did Mueller even begin by investigating Donald Trump?
So from my understanding of where the investigation began is that throughout the course of Donald Trump's campaign, and even further back, given his business dealings, there were a number of contacts with Russian oligarchs and individuals in power in the Russian government that the FBI was beginning to take notice, hey, these are contacts with known adversaries. And I think that began the trail of at least them trying to observe what was going on there. And then when the election occurred, and then it became well known that Russia did in fact take measures to impact the outcome of our elections by disseminating fake news throughout the internet, false stories, driving discussions on Facebook and Instagram and social media platforms where they would purposefully say a divisive comment that was designed to get people fighting against each other. It became quite obvious that he was engaging, or at least at a minimum, what we know now, he didn't say no when Russia was hey, we're going to help you out with the election. And, this Mueller report, it was my understanding that initially it was to investigate what happened in the 2016 election and whether or not Trump and his team engaged in a conspiracy with the Russians against the interests of the United States, which could conceivably be called treason. What needed to be found in the report was beyond a reasonable doubt evidence that Donald Trump committed a conspiracy, which is a pretty high bar. Conspiracy is among one of the harder, it's harder in a sense that what they were looking for was an explicit partnership. I reach out to you to say, hey, I'm gonna hack into DNC elections, and then you're going to say these talking points, and we're going to get you elected together. You know, there wasn't ever that explicit discussion. You know, I don't think that ever happened. But in the Mueller report itself, it identifies almost 200 instances of contacts between the Trump team and Russian oligarchs and peoples of power. That's more than just passive discussions, you know. I don't think that there was enough, in Mueller's estimation actually, wasn't enough evidence to bring a charge for conspiracy. But to say that there's no evidence of quote unquote collusion, that's a stretch.
Okay.
Because I think the report, there's evidence.
Yeah.
I'll take it the other direction. If you're telling me that our president did not commit a conspiracy with a foreign power to essentially commit treason against the United States, fantastic. I want that to be the case.
Yeah.
I don't want Trump to be involved in a conspiracy. That would be insane for me to want. Oh, I want the most powerful guy in my country to be a foreign agent, to be a what is that called, a Manchurian candidate.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't want that.
Yeah.
But objectively speaking, you got to look at the evidence and say this guy is at least willing to dabble in the dirt. You know, at a minimum, right?
Yeah.
You know, and that's where the second part of the report is important.
The first 200 pages is on the collusion. The second is on obstruction, right? And so that's where things start to get dicey.
And
right?
that's interesting, yeah.
And so things start to get dicey because there's 10 instances of possible obstruction.
There's actually there seems to be more, but
Okay.
yes.
But there's 10 from what I've read and from the articles I've read and things that I've heard about it. There's at least 10 times where there's enough here where we're okay, this is actually where there's probably more of an issue. More for than the first 200 pages in the second.
And it's funny because that wasn't the original scope of the investigation.
No, not
because
at all.
all of the obstruction stuff occurred after the fact.
After the fact, yeah.
The narrative that's been spun, or that Barr spun when he came out with his summary, was that no collusion, no obstruction. Whoa, dude. I could maybe get with you on the first one because that is essentially the end result, right? No charges for conspiracy.
Yeah.
Or no evidence beyond a reasonable doubt that this happened. But as far as obstruction, and from an objective perspective, absolutely Donald Trump committed obstruction of justice.
You think so?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what Barr did in his summary is he cherry-picked certain lines and sentences. There were a couple instances where he picked out a sentence and didn't finish the sentence.
Yeah.
The second part of the sentence would say, for example, with respect to the obstruction, there was a line where it basically said, I'm not making a recommendation. I'm not making a recommendation for a charge of obstruction of justice. The follow-up line is that this report in no way exonerates the president. When you tell someone to fire the guy who's investigating you, and the only reason it didn't happen is because the guy you told to do it was no, I'm not doing that. Yes, that is an attempt to obstruct justice.
Okay, and so that's what I keep hearing, right? It was an attempt.
Yes.
Right, and so because that's what Barr was saying when he was standing there. He's he said attempt is not obstruction. I hear that word attempt, right? And he says because it's an attempt, and if he would have if when Trump said fire him and they would have went through with it, then that's obstruction. But because they never went through with it, an attempt isn't the same thing.
And we can argue this is where Barr is from my side of the aisle where I'm sitting on the left. I'm looking at it and I'm going, this is now an attorney general who is a shill for the president, a mouthpiece for the president. Yeah. And the fact now that Barr is investigating other matters at the behest of the president, that's what dictators do. Dictators have an AG who will not file charges against them or criminally prosecute them, and who will criminally investigate their political opponents. That's what dictators do. That's textbook what dictators will do.
Yeah.
And right now we have the fact that the Attorney General of the United States, who, if he did in fact read the report, it's pretty obvious on its face what it is, that you're not willing to say that. And you're not willing to exist in this reality, or you're doing what you were put in the position for in the first place, and that's to protect the President of the United States.
I always heard people call Trump a dictator, which I always thought was far-fetched. To me, when I hear that, I'm like, no. Right, but then the way you explained it, that's what a dictator is. Right, what you explained, that's what. But I still, even though I wouldn't agree with, because let me just say this: I listen to Ben Shapiro.
Sure.
Every day, that's what I listen to, and even he's come to the conclusion because he's read the full report. I haven't, but he has. And he said I read everything, and he said Trump has done some really, and he's not a Trump account.
He's not.
He's not. And so he said Trump's done some really bad things. He was like, there's some really bad things in here. Some things that talk about morality that, I'll definitely talk about, right? He said, but to what he's read, he's like, he agrees with Barr's report. And he was like, he's like, now we have everything. He said, of course, there's some things that you can't release because of ongoing investigations, things like that.
Which could be where the real pitfall is.
And that's what he's saying, like, well, maybe. He said, but even then, there's very little that Barr gave us as much as he could.
Well, but like to rebut that, and as a point of contention, Bob Mueller himself wrote to Anthony Barr and told him, yo, the way you're spinning it, that's not what it was. That's not accurately representing what I wrote, and you've caused confusion to the public.
Yeah.
That's the author of the report telling the guy who summarized it that you are not characterizing this correctly.
Well, what he wanted, I thought he just wanted Barr to release what he concluded. Like
he had his own summaries.
Yeah.
He had his own summaries.
And he wanted Barr to release that. I think that's what, because that was the thing going on.
No, the letter quite clearly says you have caused that you've caused confusion among the public of the material findings of the report. It's quite a scathing letter, frankly. And Bob Mueller is a deliberate individual. Attempted burglary, things like that, like attempt. The idea of an attempt. This was an attempted obstruction, and it is a crime. The fact that he was trying to. He put public pressure on witnesses, trying to influence the testimony and cooperation of witnesses. That's an obstructive attempt. When he was out there dangling the pardon thing.
Yeah.
So it's like, stay strong. He's like very publicly displaying his pardon power. That's influencing testimony.
So this is what I look at. I said there's, so I think there's two perspectives on that, right? There could be what you're saying, yes, that he's doing it for that intent, or because of all the negative press that he's getting. And he just wants it to be over with. Like, you don't think Trump, at any point in time, is just like, look, I am sick and tired of you guys investigating me. Because he said from the beginning, there's no collusion, there's none of this stuff going on. What they've investigated me for was wrong. He's been saying that from the beginning. Mm-hmm. And so, for 2 years now, that's all we've heard on the news, was all this. And he's sick, and as a president, trying to do his job, he's sick and tired of hearing it. So there could be the side of him, and this is where I lean, that he just wants it to be over with.
Okay.
Right? He wants it to be done. Like, hey, let's just get this over with. And so now he's at the point where now he's like they had no reason to even start investigating him to begin with. And so they started investigating. They wiretapped him. They did all this stuff before, like when he was in Trump Tower.
That was his language.
But
the government surveils our phone calls.
Yes, they do. Fair. But
that's something from the Patriot Act.
But which I completely disagree.
Which was like complete, yeah.
But the reason why they were doing it is the thing that's dicey, right? Why were they trying to listen in on him? Why were they beginning this investigation?
Okay, and we talked about it earlier, like because there were contacts. They were noting contacts with noted enemies of the United States, oligarchs in Russia, but people in political power.
Was it for the reason of the quote unquote, we'll still go with the collusion to begin with, which we come to find out there's no evidence of him colluding with Russia in the attempt and trying to win the election. Right? There's nothing there for that, and that's what they're saying.
At a minimum, Trump was aware that Russia was trying to help him get elected.
If he could push
back against it.
If he was aware of it, which now he is.
He was.
He's putting things in place now to where there's no.
In the campaign, he said, "Russia, if you're listening, I would like to find the 33,000 emails."
Oh, come on, we know he's being sarcastic.
They did it that day, later that day. Just because he does it in public doesn't make it any less of what it is.
Okay. But when I see him say things like the other day when he called himself a genius, you know he was tongue in cheek.
No, stable genius.
Stable genius. You know it was tongue in cheek. Did he really mean that?
Right, but
like when I read that, I'm laughing at it, saying no, come on. I can't. Most of it, he's a showman.
Right, but
that's a
the president shouldn't be.
No, I completely agree. He shouldn't be, but Trump is. Or it says in the front end of it, it's like, look, nothing happened here. Right? No. Nothing happened.
Ooh,
he's never reached out to Russia and like, hey, help me win. He's never asked.
I always said from the beginning, while this was all still going on, I would tell people that knew me, like, I'm pretty sure that was just as simple. Russia reached out and said, "Hey, we can help you get elected," and he went, "Oh, okay."
Like they did nothing of it.
But except there were a number of contacts designed to do exactly what happened. You know, Russia. Here's one thing that can't be disputed: Russia did interfere with the election.
No one denies that.
You can't.
I think and that's why I asked, like, the original intent, like the original intent of of Mueller's investigation, which seemed to be fairly early for him to recognize, hey, look, like, did Trump say, Russia, help me get elected?
And here's why I think
I would say no.
I think this is why there wasn't a recommendation for charges on that, because I guess here's where I could help. Being an attorney, you know, the beyond a reasonable doubt standard is the highest legal standard to get a conviction. You know, like in civil law, it's what's called preponderance of the evidence. And you know, for the fact that we're sitting here having an argument or a debate about whether or not there was a conspiracy or a collusion, is evident of the fact of what Mueller ultimately found. Is like, I don't think I have enough here to have a conviction. I don't think that there's enough evidence here to prove it by beyond a reasonable doubt. And that's a fair point. But this idea that he didn't do anything, that's just false. It is. When you have your son, who had been a big part of your campaign managers are in cahoots with Russia. They end up going to federal prison for that.
Wait, they didn't go to prison for
Paul Manafort? Yes, he did.
For Russia?
For tax evasion.
Okay, but but you said Russia. He didn't go to jail for Russia.
Well, Paul Manafort is also he has notable financial investments and financial dealings with Russia. So does Trump.
No, yeah, but I thought it was more for like.
Here's a couple of things about it too. It's like Trump absolutely wanted the investigation in. Of course he did. Nixon did too. You know.
I mean, but how long did it take for Nixon to get caught?
The reason he got caught is because he was trying to destroy evidence.
I mean, it took him 2 weeks to get caught.
After he tried to destroy evidence, yes. They were on his ass. And he had his attorney general do some crazy, Black Friday.
No, I get all that. I know Watergate.
And that's why McGahn.
I mean, I don't remember. I'm not old enough.
McGahn actually gets noted for saying that in the report. That basically he didn't want to be caught up in like a Black Friday type scenario. He doesn't want his name attached to that. I can't blame him for that.
Yeah.
But this idea that Trump didn't do anything with Russia or wasn't at least at a minimum, he knew that they were trying to help him, and he was cool with that. Here's the thing, as a liberal, it's really frustrating to me about the Democratic Party, how ineffective they are. They're just a completely ineffective party.
And see, like, this is where, as a conservative, I would say that a lot of people on the right were just as annoyed with their party as well. Things haven't been getting done for a long time, and so it's things like that is the reason why Trump got elected.
I'm in a time where I'd be lying if I said that I absolutely detest the Trump presidency. I'm not going to pull any punches on that. I absolutely don't want him to be president. I think he should be impeached. I think he does. He's committed ethical violations. He's committed criminal violations. He is just dangerously reckless. He definitely should not be president. But I also don't want to devolve to this point where now whoever's in president, the other side is just going to tie him up with investigations and then just try to sabotage any presidency, valid or not. Between putting in an AG who is basically a mouthpiece for the president, having a party, one political party that, if you're the president with the D next to your name, we surround you. If you got the president with the R next to your name, you can do no wrong, we surround you, we circle the wagon.
That's a big problem.
That is a huge problem. This flies another problem.
Yes.
That's a huge issue. And like, if you're currently a Republican and you're a Trump supporter, all of the stuff you like right now. But, as is true with politics in general, it will swing back the other way.
Yeah.
And it's already telling that it is. When Democrats took back the House, that's already showing that it's swinging back the other way. Don't you find it interesting that we go Bush 1, Clinton, Bush 2, Obama, Trump. Where do we go? Republican, Democrat, Republican, Democrat, Republican.
That's how. And that's what I can. That's what.
And before Bush, it was
Reagan.
It was two Republicans.
Yeah, two Republicans back to back.
But even before that, Democrat, and then you know what I'm saying? Like, it's pendulum, it swings, and I don't want to break down the norms of the things that protect us from. America was founded because we didn't like a dictator king, and sometimes I feel with Trump supporters that they think they elected a king and not a president. that's the kind of image we now have on the world stage, and people are looking at us, and they're seeing the same things. They're starting to say, America's kind of starting to tilt towards away from democracy. They're going away from democracy, and we're going more towards dictatorship.
But I mean, because I wouldn't say we're in a democracy. We do have a democratic republic, but we are a constitutional republic.
Well, he's not respecting that.
But and so if he's not respecting the Constitution, then he should be removed. I would say I would need evidence of him not respecting the Constitution. And it always goes back to the
when he says, "I'm not going to cooperate with legislative subpoenas," or
and I would say the reason, and I think we disagree on why he's saying that, and that's where it all comes. And it does come down to.
I don't think he should have a say. He should. The purpose of Congress is to serve as a check on the president.
Yeah, absolutely. And and so there
checks
are
and balances only work if they apply.
If they apply. Hey, Robert, thank you so much for coming.
It's a pleasure, man. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, definitely. And I know that we disagreed, but this channel doesn't show that hey, people can have civil conversations and dialogue and still be friends even if we disagree.
I agree, and it's been a real pleasure for me. I don't like this idea that just because the other side disagrees with you, that the other side is idiotic, stupid, has no good ideas, can't make a cogent argument. What are they thinking? It's obscene, and
yes.
I appreciate it, and I hope your audience at least doesn't see me as like some obscenely ridiculous liberal. I hope I at least, I formulate my opinions, and I hope that I can at least make an objective determination.
Yeah. Well, and see that's what the message we're trying to get out here. Right, so again, thank you so much for coming on, and thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you guys appreciate it, and hopefully you learned something. If you're liberal, hopefully you learned something from me. If you're conservative, hopefully you learned something from Robert. But I always say, try to leave a comment underneath and tell me what you think. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I hope you guys have a wonderful week. Until next Wednesday,